Chapter 1706. When he was fighting Yankai a few days ago, Yankai suddenly used the indestructible 5-element sword, and he could naturally see the clues with his eyesight. On Shadowed Soul Island, Saint Yuan cannot be used at all. The only explanation for the colorful glow would be a body refining cultivation technique. The power cultivated by the body refining cultivation technique is not within the scope of Saint Yuan, and naturally it is not restricted by the Shadowed Soul Island. Yes, Yankai didn't hide it. A fiery look suddenly appeared on the old man's face. Body refining cultivation techniques, looking at the entire star field, are also relatively rare, and advanced body refining cultivation techniques are even rarer. However, it is not because of scarcity that body refining cultivation techniques will become precious. For one thing, it is more difficult to practice a body refining cultivation technique. Even if it is an ordinary body refining cultivation technique, it is difficult to cultivate to a very high level. Secondly, martial artists do not have so much energy to cultivate the body in their life. The standard for the strength and survival of the martial artist is the power of Saint Yuan and divine sense, so even if many people know the benefits of physical strength, there is no way to do it. But it's different in Shadowed Soul Island. Saint Yuan in Shadowed Soul Island cannot be used, the power of divine sense is suppressed, and practicing physical exercises is the best and brightest way out for martial artists. For countless years, there have been countless martial artists who have been living on Shadowed Soul Island. Naturally, some body training techniques have flooded into Shadowed Soul Island. The old man has also practiced one, but it is an extremely ordinary technique. It would be like comparing heaven and earth to Yankai's indestructible 5-element sword. The reason why the immortal 5-element sword is powerful is not due to the practice itself, but due to the materials needed for cultivation. If the old man can get Yankai's body refining technique, he will definitely increase his strength. So as soon as he heard that Yankai had an advanced body refining cultivation technique, his eyes became fiery. At any rate, he is also a strong man with good strength. Knowing that something like cultivation techniques can't be asked for casually, the old man can only suppress the desire in his heart, not to be boring. Introduce yourself. This old man is Shahu. When he said these words, he had a sense of self-satisfaction, as if Yankai should have heard of the name. Unfortunately, the results disappointed him. Yankai just faintly clasped his fists. It turned out to be old man Mansha. This one is Yankai. Shahu frowned and asked tentatively, "You have never heard of the old man's name?" Yankai smiled. "Old Mansha is from the deep sea, right?" Shahu nodded and woke up. "Are you from the inland?" "Yes." Shahu knew it. On Shadowed Star, the cultivators of the deep sea and the inland belong to two systems. Although everyone is unlikely to not communicate with each other, they rarely get involved in each other's domain and territory. It is not surprising that people from inland do not know the names of strong men in the deep sea. After knowing this, Shahu's face turned slightly, and he chuckled. The old man has been here for more than 300 years. Back then, this old man was the second palace master of the Sea Palace. How is the Sea Palace now? Old man is the second palace master of the Sea Palace. Now it was Yankai's turn to be shocked. Without concealing anything, I came here from near the Sunrise Island in the Sea Palace. The Sea Palace is now considered a very powerful strength in the deep sea. It is the #1 among the human race, and it is enough to fight against the Sea God Palace. Shahu listened quietly. He said with satisfaction, "Those guys still have some abilities and haven't corrupted their ancestors." "Brat, did you have a friendship with Sea Palace? Why did you go to Sunrise Island?" "I passed by accidentally, but there is no friendship." Yankai laughed. Perhaps because of inquiring about the relationship with the Sea Palace, Shahu's expression relaxed a lot. Seeing that Yankai was not aggressive as an ordinary young man, he was naturally very satisfied with him. Both of them put aside the embarrassment of the previous battle, and even chatted speculatively. Yankai needs to know the situation of Shadowed Soul Island. But Shahu wanted to inquire about the current situation of the Sea Palace. Asking and answering, the atmosphere became harmonious. After a long time, both of them got the intelligence and information they wanted. Yankai frowned. This Shadowed Soul Island was full of weirdness. As a closed space, no one could find a way out. As the island master of Shadowed Soul Island, Shahu couldn't even leave this place back then. And Minkayu, originally the Vice Island master under Shahu, was not weaker than Shahu. But I don't know what's going on. One day, Minkayu's strength suddenly soared and competed with Shahu for power. As a result, Shahu was naturally defeated and had to escape from Shadowed Soul Island and hid on this small island. Counting it down, it was almost 100 years ago. For hundreds of years, Shahu has tolerated the humiliation and only hoped that one day he would be able to return to Shadowed Soul Island to kill his enemies. It's a pity that his strength seems to have reached a certain bottleneck, and he can't continue to improve, so he can only stay here. Fortunately, it was far away from Shadowed Soul Island, and most people couldn't reach it at all. When Shahu fled here, he was alive and well. Yankai was the only wise creature he had seen in the past 100 years. And how big is the space where Shadowed Soul Island is located? Even Shahu can't tell. He once left this small island to explore outside, but the deeper he goes, the stronger the sea beast he encounters. Even he was not their opponent, he had no choice but to return. Is there really no way to leave Shadowed Soul Island? Yankai frowned. Perhaps, but the old man can't find it. Shahu shook his head. At least, I can't find it here. The old man meant. Shahu frowned, and he pondered for a moment and said, "This is just the old man's guess. Whether it is correct or not, the old man is not sure. Senior, please tell me, if there is a way out here." Shadowed Soul Island main island is the only clue. There is a strange place there. The old man wanted to investigate but couldn't enter. Shahu said without hesitation. Yankai moved slightly. Shahu smiled and said, "If we two join forces, we may be able to take over Shadowed Soul Island, but this is only a possibility. Minkai was stronger than me in the past. Now that 100 years have passed, I don't know how strong he is now. Maybe we'll walk right into a trap." Yankai was non-committal. He didn't care how strong Minkai was. He didn't use all his strength in the battle against Shahu. What's more, he still has a killer such as stone puppet Xia Oxio. In just power, who in the world can be stronger than Xia Oxio? As long as Xia Oxio makes a move, no one on Shadowed Soul Island is its opponent. He is considering the authenticity of Shahu's words. Although the old guy has a good temper, he knows if he wants to use himself to achieve any purpose. Don't be overcast by him when the time comes, then the gain will not be worth the loss. Yankai would rather save a gentleman's belly with a villain than regret it after bad luck. Seeing Yankai's silence, Shahu changed the subject in due course. "Were you studying Muddy Heavenly Lotus and Muddy Heavenly Pill just now?" Yankai recovered from his meditation, nodded and said, "Well, this thing is a specialty of Shadowed Soul Island, right?" "Yes. Muddy Heavenly Lotus cannot be found in the outside world. Only Shadowed Soul Island can produce it. The cultivators who are in trouble here use the Muddy Heaven Pill to enhance their own strength. Unfortunately, the old man does not know how to perform alchemy. Taking the Muddy Heaven Lotus wouldn't provide me any benefit, otherwise, you think the old man will leave so many Muddy Heavenly Lotus in the lake?" Speaking of which, Shahu's expression was painful again. Thousands of Muddy Heaven Lotuses. In the entire Shadowed Soul Island, thousands of warriors have been running around for a few years, and they may not be able to find so many. But now, all have entered Yankai's space ring. Yankai suddenly asked, "Does old man Shah have the pill recipe for Muddy Heaven Pill?" "This is naturally there," Shahu chuckled lightly, proudly said, "Well, the old man was also the master of Shadowed Soul Island back then. This pill recipe." As he spoke, Shahu's eyes lit up, pointing at Yankai, and trembling, "Are you an alchemist?" If Yankai was not an alchemist, there was no need to ask about the recipe. He looked at Yankai, his eyes burning extremely hot, as if to see an amazing treasure. Yankai chuckled, "That's right. You really are an alchemist." Shahu immediately stood up. Yankai nodded again. Shahu froze for a moment, and then he laughed loudly. The heavens haven't forsaken me. The heavens haven't forsaken me. Good, good, it's great. The reason why his strength has stagnated in recent years is because there is no Muddy Heaven pill. Directly taking Muddy Heaven has no effect on him. Only by refining the Muddy Heaven lotus into a pill can it exert its due effect. So when he learned that Yankai was really an alchemist, Shahu was so excited that he lost some self-control. But soon, he frowned. After looking at Yankai, he sighed deeply. What's wrong? Yankai was puzzled. The moment before Shahu was as happy as a dutiful son, the moment he became so desperate, the contrast was really big. Even if you are an alchemist, without earth fire, you can't make alchemy. Shahu's face was gray and he sat down again. The alchemists on Shadowed Soul Island are extremely rare. There are tens of thousands of alchemists, maybe only 4 or 5. It's just an alchemist, and the level of these alchemists is not at the same level, but if they want to make alchemy, they must use the Shadowed Soul Island's earth fire. We have no earth fire to borrow here. I don't need earth fire. Yankai chuckled. Nonsense. Shahu sneered. Isn't there any alchemist who doesn't need earth fire in alchemy? Maybe it can be outside, but the Saint Yuan can't use it here, only with the help of earth fire. As Shahu was talking, he was speechless, because he clearly felt that a scorching power spread from Yankai's body. It was not the power of Saint Yuan, but the power of divine consciousness. Conflagrated knowledge. See, Shahu's face changed drastically. Yankai smiled harmlessly. Even in the outside world, he doesn't need to use Saint Yuan to refine pills, because he always uses this conflagrated knowledge. See, what's more, he still has the Firebird in his hand. Since the fusion of the brilliant Fire Sex Thunder Fire Flame, Firebird has evolved and has developed complete intelligence, can transform into a human form, and integrate her life secret treasure alchemy furnace. She herself is the best earth fire. No matter how bad it is, Yankai can enter the mysterious boundary bead to refine alchemy, and the mysterious boundary bead is also a self-contained world. There is no restriction on Saint Yuan. All the advantages made him not need to worry about alchemy at all, but these didn't need to be exposed to Shahu.